think that Clint has a lot of that too.
Oh, shit.
Clint came along at a time when it was possible to play a more edgy kind of character, a mean character, or one that's on the other side of the law.
Cagney had that theory of be honest, tell the truth, be yourself.
Eastwood's standing grew when Pale Rider, an abstract allegorical western, was invited to compete in the 1985 Cannes Film Festival. After the festival, the Cinematheque
We hate ice cream, apple pie, and mom. I don't think that's fun.
It was a quiet time. His long relation ended. He had achieved much of what he wanted to do in his professional life. Now he was trying to go further.
Let's start now? Okay, that'll be enough.
Okay, that's no problem. You know, Diane, you can feel free to lay over on your sideline.
Environment to work in, an environment with people that he's worked with for a long time, who
naturally flow, and you don't try and interrupt that flow with a lot of critical thinking.
Thank you very much.
Here, and he says, you know, I don't care if...
Brown, he tried another Dirty Harry, but his boredom with the character showed through.
He himself has said that he thought he probably did a couple of Dirty Harrys too many. Clint, in the course of doing that, the products were very variable.
Another personal project, White Hunter, Black Heart, a fictionalized account of John Huston directing The African Queen, confounded the critics and failed to attract a public. Eastwood's career seemed at a standstill. But he had something in reserve, a script he had tucked away 10 years before.
Action.
I found it both appropriate and moving that at the end of Unforgiven, Eastwood has that dedication to Don Siegel and Sergio Leone. In many ways, The Unforgiven feels like the summation of his proud Don Siegel.
Unforgiven is Dakota. It is the final outcome of an old gunfighter called back into active duty. And it could have been any one of those characters from Outlaw Josie Wales or Pale Rider or any of those characters, all of that history that he drags with him into that movie. It becomes a memory for everybody.
I didn't think Unforgiven would be commercial. Thought it was maybe too... I was playing a guy who's a pig farmer and trying to eke out a living that wasn't really working for him. And my character was not the guy who was the romantic hero. He couldn't get on his horse. He was rusty at the thing. The little comic elements there. And when I first read the script, I thought the part Gene Hackman played was the protagonist of the film until I got into it a little bit more.
All you gotta do is pull the trigger, mister.
I wasn't really terribly interested in it. It seemed like a kind of a stock character to me. And luckily, I reconsidered and had a nice talk with Clint. And he assured me that we would work and try to find some nuances and things in the character.
Yeah, if you hit this thing, cheers.
Clint, for a long time, could carry a picture all by himself. But I think as he got older and as really Hollywood kind of changed, you know, movies actually did be...
When Clint decided to do The Unforgiven, and those three other parts had to be played by men as imposing as Clint is, and he knew that.
It's a brilliant screenplay, one of the best I've ever seen as far as realizing all of the characters. But that part Gene Hackman played, he had human characteristics. He wasn't just a snarling, sniveling villain. He had romantic dreams about sitting on the porch.
I'm building a porch here so I can sit of an evening, smoke my pipe, drink coffee, and watch the sunset.
Little Bill wants desperately to build his house, and I guess that's maybe the clue to his character is the fact that if you do decent things in your life. That if you're building a house, for instance, that's a decent thing to do. That's what people should do. That anything else that you do should be okay.
You've been talking about the Queen again? On Independence Day?
Easy. Unforgiven, I hope it's not, but it could be a kind of farewell to the Western.
Guess you think I'm kicking you, Bob?
What Unforgiven shows is that salvation by violence doesn't really work, that in the end...
Well, ain't you gonna shoot?
Well, I thought it was timely in the violence of the world. It's not beautiful, it's not romanticized, and it's been romanticized. And I've been right in there romanticizing myself throughout my lifetime, but this script allowed me to present exactly how I would feel about it. It's a hell of a thing, killing a man. You take away all he's got, and all he's ever gonna have.
Yeah. Oh, I guess they had it coming.
We all have it coming, Clint.
What's really interesting and what's at the core of doesn't opt for redemption. He opts for the use of violence.
I don't deserve this. To die like this. I was building a house. Deserves got nothing to do with it. I'll see you in hell, William Money.
And this plays right into the theme of the violence throughout Clint Eastwood's pictures, where he seems to be really interested in what the roots of violence are, where it comes from, what are we as human beings, you know? And in this picture, he's just brutally honest and frank. That's what makes it a great film. There isn't a cop-out.
He understands a lot throughout his career about what the role of the hero means to other people, means to American society, how limiting that is in a way, how valuable it is to kind of break out of that and be able to admit to mistakes, to try to...
And then suddenly with Unforgiven, the whole in Eastwood's case, the recognition didn't come till late, because the kinds of movies that he did, they've been pissing on it.
Eastwood was 62 when Unforgiven won 4 Oscars. He was at the top of his career at a time when most stars are thinking of retirement. Instead, he went on, developing the reflective mood of Unforgiven into a series of films centered on aging heroes. They look back regretfully over lives filled with violence and anger, and struggle with their responsibilities as husbands and fathers.
You know, I've been thinking about the past lately, and I was just wondering what went wrong with me, Core, with us.
The mature characters of the later films confront their missed opportunities and dream of second chances.
I think that Clint's willing to be seen as a grandpa, as vulnerable, as crying over his daughter. All of the last movies he's put out on screen. One of his favorite lines is, "At this age, what can they do to you?"
I guess there comes a stage when you're younger, you're very reckless.
I can't have you.
There was a scene in the film camera. He wouldn't let the camera see him. I thought, wow, that's weird. You know, most actors are just pushing that towards the camera. Why did you withhold that? And he said, people don't want to see me cry. And I really needed this thing somehow. Check, clothes off, take the other hat off, take the director's hat off.
You're friends, and you must pass this legacy on to the next generation.
Jazz and the Western movie.
After almost 4 decades, Clint Eastwood remains a major star and a major figure in American life. But just as there remains something unknowable in his characters, Eastwood has kept his own distance. He is still a private man, on screen and off. He has stayed with us by adapting to changes in the culture, but also by anticipating them, and just as often, by criticizing them. He has done his work with grace and modesty, planting his feet and telling the truth.